Okay, everybody, I think that we can begin. My name is America Garcia. I am the Texas Program Director at Solar United Neighbors. My pronouns are she, her. I'm going to have my co-presenter, or maybe not my co-presenter, my big help, introduce themselves.
Hi, y'all. I'm Trinity. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I work with America to help support Texas as well as a few other states. I will not be presenting today. Thank goodness that is America's job. But if you have any questions in the chat, I will be doing my best to answer them. So feel free if you want to ask in the chat. Otherwise, we'll be taking some pauses throughout the presentation where you can come off mute and ask questions.
So a couple of things. Choose your mic and speakers for computer audio. Submit any questions in the chat. And lastly, this webinar is being recorded. So this way you can share a link of the recording with everyone. And that would be your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, anybody who you know might be interested in going solar. This is what we're going to cover today. We already did the introductions, but I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to everybody else. Please come off mute and please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Loya from El Paso, Texas.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Anybody else?
Good evening, everybody.
We're also going to cover the solar technology, solar economics, and how solar co-ops work. I do want to thank our partners, Eco El Paso and the City of El Paso. And we are also working with Amanecer People's Project. Sun is a vendor-neutral 501c3 profit that helps people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. We're a national organization with staff all over the country in 11 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. And we also offer bulk purchasing programs. Since we got our start in 2007, we have helped thousands of people go solar. This is our theory of change. We go solar, we join together, and we fight for our energy rights. And this is how Sun began. It began with the Mount Pleasant Solar Co-op in Washington, D.C. back in 2007. Walter, pictured on the left, is the son of our executive director, Anya Schulman. He and his friend Diego wanted to go solar. Anya looked into it and quickly found out that going solar wasn't so easy at the time. Walter and Diego went door to door around the neighborhood and signed up 50 neighbors interested in working together to untangle the complicated process. After many meetings, research, and coordination, 45 neighbors in that first group went solar. And after that, Anya began receiving calls from people around the country wanting to organize similar groups. Since 2018, 326 people have gone solar with us in Texas. 3 megawatts of capacity have been installed. $9.1 million have been invested in local solar. An estimated $17.4 million in energy savings over 25 years, and 55 solar jobs have been created. And we've also been able to, again, an estimate, offset 87 million pounds of lifetime CO2. Now, before we get into the presentation, I'd like to take a moment to address the inequities of our current energy system. Communities of color, particularly the Black community, bear an unfair share of the cost of energy production but receive fewer benefits. Families of color are disproportionately harmed by higher utility bills and disconnections. On top of that, housing discrimination is a barrier to home ownership and thus solar ownership. One son started with a group of economically and racially diverse neighbors. They focused on solar because it helped people pay their electric bills. It also helped them stay in their homes at a time when DC was being gentrified quickly and the whole country was in the middle of a financial crisis. Rooftop solar lets communities invest locally, creates good local jobs, and brings control of the energy system within our reach. We're working toward a new energy system that everyone can participate in, one that's fair and equitable. We're going to go over the solar technology, solar economics, and going solar together. Today, we're going to talk about solar photovoltaic technology. Photovoltaic technology converts light energy into usable electricity. The majority of today's solar market is PV technology. Solar thermal is another residential solar technology. And that would be for heating a pool or for directly heating your home's hot water. But it is a small percentage of today's market. A solar panel is constructed of silicon cells and is surrounded by layers of on either side to protect it from the elements and make it rigid so that it can be mounted securely. The silicon cells convert the sun's light into electricity. And these panels are connected to the roof through a racking system. Racking systems come in a variety of types that allow solar installers to connect a solar array to just about any building or ground location. One of the most common roofing types is asphalt shingle. For this roof type, attachments are made to the rafters of your home through the roof and then waterproof to prevent leaks, either through flashings, as seen in this photo, specialized compression, and sealant attachments. Those attachments provide the base for aluminum rails, and then the panels are bolted on top of those rails. Here's another roofing type. This is a standing seam metal roof that shows the use of clamps to attach to the roof seams, and then the racking sits on top of that. If you have space and your local permitting laws allow it, putting solar on the ground is also a great option. The panels can be pointed directly south and benefit from better airflow beneath them to maximize energy production. Ground mount systems often cost a little bit more because of the additional materials and the need for trenching the wires underground back to your home. I do want to state that not all installers offer ground mounts. Let's discuss inverters. Inverters are the brains of your solar array. They convert the electricity coming from the panels into a form your house can use. They also allow you to see energy production from the solar array and how it performs over time, because inverters report that information to an online monitoring app that you can access. There are a few different kinds of inverters. String inverters on the left are a single unit that controls many panels. Microinverters are smaller and get attached behind each panel to control it individually. And optimizers plus string inverters are a sort of a combination of the two. Your installer will recommend the type they feel is best for your home, depending on things like how much shade there is. Shade can greatly impact how much energy your system will produce. Microinverters and optimizers are often recommended when there is potential for intermittent shade. Now, it's important to have access and space on the circuit breaker panel in order to have solar. Some homes have the capacity, but some panels do need to be upgraded before getting solar panels. The installer will want to know if you have a setup in order to get a proposal, and they'll let you know if you need an upgrade, and the price is something that we get through our co-op process. Now let's go through some terminology. Kilowatts are what the system is measured in. There are 8,000 watts and the equivalent of 1 kilowatt. A kilowatt hour is the production It's what the solar production of the solar array is measured in. So your electricity bill has the amount of kilowatt hours consumed. And if you add the yearly consumption, that information is used to determine the suggested size in a proposal you would get from your installer. The average size of a system in Texas is 6 to 7 kilowatts, and it's based on what you consume now and what you plan on doing in the future, and other factors such as roof size and, of course, budget. You can also choose to add panels in the future. Here are the main components: the solar array, the inverter, electrical panel, and the meter. We're tied to the meter in the event that you aren't home and you aren't using so much electricity that electrons can go back into the grid and help out the grid and your neighbors. The name of this process is called net metering. I do want to state that Texas doesn't require electric companies to offer net metering, but a few retail electric providers do have buyback programs for surplus generation. In the deregulated market, which is what I live in, I currently live in Houston, Texas, some retail companies offer buyback plans. Plans change often, so it isn't necessary to memorize what's on the screen right now. We do partner with a company called Texas Power Guide, and they offer a free analysis that can help you to choose the best company for you and your home once you have a proposal in the event that you choose to switch plans. So what does a good rooftop for solar look like? Well, first, it's going to have little to no shading. It's going to be oriented from west to east, and it's going to have enough space to mount the panels. The installer can help you determine this. So what happens if the power goes out? Batteries are an important component that can be added to your system. During Winter Storm Uri, the people who had power with solar were those who had batteries. During an outage, the solar panels cannot provide power, even if it's sunny, because we cannot backfeed electricity to the grid, because it's dangerous for those that are working on the grid trying to bring it back online. So you might want storage if you live in an area with frequent outages, rolling blackouts, and important loads at home, such as medical equipment, well pumps, but also during emergencies and disaster preparedness. We have a guide to help you determine whether a battery is right for you at this link here. A few of the questions that we get, this is an example of solar and batteries. A 13.5 kilowatt hour battery bank is going to be fully recharged by solar daily. Without the sun shining, you would only have 1 day of power. Now, in the event that you were to choose to use your battery, it's important that only in your most important loads are on it, such as like the refrigerator, a cable modem, possibly a small window air conditioner. What they don't power is an electric stove, a dryer, or a water heater. This is what they chose not to power, just because that does take up more load. These are a few of the frequently asked questions that we get. Solar installations come with 3 types of warranties: the panels, the manufacturer's warranty for the equipment, which covers defects for panels, and the inverter, and those can vary depending on the type of panel and the inverter, but they're typically 10 to 25 years. The second type of warranty is power production warranty, and that typically guarantees panels will produce at a certain level later in its lifespan. The third type is the labor warranty from the installer in the event they made a mistake when weatherizing the roof. and you were to have a leak, the labor warranty covers this type of situation. And those are typically 5 to 10 years long, and at times they can be longer. Homeowners insurance. Please let your homeowner's insurance know you have obtained a system and ensure that solar array because you have just made a large investment. For the most part, your solar array is low maintenance, and you can also ask the installer to go and check on it. Systems last under warranty to produce for about 25 years, but systems can and do last longer than that. HOAs and POAs cannot prohibit or restrict a property owner from installing a solar energy device according to Texas Tax Code Section 171.107. Additionally, you will not be taxed on the additional value you've added to the home by installing a solar array, but you may need permission from the HOA, and they may request that you move the array north to where it affects the output more than 10%, but that is also not permitted. Historic districts may need to be informed about the addition of solar, but again, they cannot deny that. We're going to discuss solar economics now. Solar is a good investment as costs have dropped significantly. And you also get a 30% federal tax credit that can be spread out over several years if you wish to do so, or if you do not have the sufficient tax liability. We work to make solar more accessible by educating people and by connecting you to the installer and lowering the soft costs in the process by doing a group bid. Although the tax credit may be spread out over several years, in 2033, the tax credit drops to 26% and then 22% in 2034. The IRA also offers tax credits on the following, such as electric heat pumps, battery storage, electric vehicles, an electric panel upgrade, and the others. This is example pricing. We've based this on the co-op price we see, which is $2.50 per watt on average. So 4 kilowatts, which means that's 4,000 watts, multiplied by $2.50 is $10,000. Then calculate the tax credit. So net cost comes out to $7,000. And on a better electricity plan, these are the savings estimates. Let's discuss some financing. There are loans, third-party ownership, and grants if you aren't paying it in cash. A little bit about our typical co-op process. I did want to let you know that this is just example pricing as well, so you do not need to memorize this or take a picture even. These are some options to go through financing. solarunitedneighbors.org/financing. You can go through your installer or on your own. Some people do choose to pull a home equity line of credit to refinance and include solar. There's also installer financing, and there are also Clean Energy Credit Union or Community First Credit Union. And this is how our solar co-op typically works. We encourage people to join a solar co-op because it is the best value on your installation. You will get support from Sun throughout this entire process. You do get to connect with fellow solar enthusiasts. You don't have to go through this process alone because there are people that are doing it as well. You also get to become part of a growing solar movement. Oops. I apologize for that. Our typical co-op process can take anywhere from 6 to 8 months. The first portion is spreading the word, getting people to join, building the group so it's attractive for local companies to bid on. Second, we request proposals from the installers and facilitate a selection committee of co-op members who ultimately choose which installer will be worked with. Third, once the installer is selected, people can get a proposal based off of the co-op pricing and decide whether they want to get the system installed. Now, months 4 through 8 are the sign up deadline. You'll receive a proposal, which is going to be customized completely to you. You'll sign the contract with the installer, and then we'll have the installation. And at the very end, we'll have a party. We'll celebrate and meet your solar neighbors, and we'll also wrap up the co op. So, what's next? Going to solarunitedneighbors.org/El Paso and sign up for the co op if you haven't already. And you can also share this link with your friends, coworkers, neighbors, and everybody else that you know in order to attract installers in order to bid on this process. Thank you. And you can send any questions to this email here.
Well, I'm glad that you joined us today and hope that you appreciated some of the information that we provided, and maybe to kind of tangent on some of the things that you asked. For us, our goal is to promote sustainability in the local region throughout the Chihuahuan Desert and throughout El Paso County, including the city of El Paso. So being one of the community organizations, having residents go through this process like exactly like this slide points out, going through it together. I've heard some of the unfortunate stories of people's engagements with local solar installers. I've seen some of the articles that have been published about some unfortunate practices that some local businesses choose to, to conduct. But for us, yes, we're trying to build confidence in the public's view of solar, the adoption of renewable energy, its viability and usefulness and benefit to the community members here. And we do understand that, yeah, the financial obstacle still remains, being a low medium income bracket as our communities are. But we're like Sun, and we're trying to work with them on the local level, being involved in some other efforts aside from the solar co-op, where we're trying to get affordability to the local communities. So at this point, yes, the offering is for those who are flexible enough to engage. But like you saw in the presentation, you can see that solar is modular. And we, encourage people to go in at, levels like 50, 70, whatever is appropriate. And then, that's the address for small businesses, residential. But we have bigger scopes of trying to look at getting integration and implementation of renewable energy generation means like solar throughout all capacities. Myself have been involved with the city in advising on renewable energy, and then taking on this role with being with Eco Paso, to continue that drive. This is our second campaign, and we are committed to doing more. And with these tax incentives available, it only makes sense to ensure that the public is educated on those and take advantage of those. And hopefully, administration and legislation can come in to where maybe these things can be more permanent or long-standing or extended, and then we can continue these with hopefully getting more people to understand the benefit. And then energy costs are really uncertain. That's something we want to work with Sun on, is working on getting involved with the TCEQ and the PUC and the way they do rates for energy, particularly with our monopoly electric utility. And any sort of topic regarding sustainability, because we are looking for community members to volunteer, even if it's on like a real basic level, like per event, and others to really lend their skills and equipping us so that we can build a powerhouse of informed citizens that are advocating on all fronts. Because to really tackle sustainability, we need to have more involved community members, and that's something I've seen in my years of being involved in the community, is the lack of leadership and the willingness of people to be bold enough to be leaders, and particularly with the influence of fossil fuel, where we saw unfortunate passing overs of Prop K, but also seeing benefits of the public's thirst and desire for climate action with the acceptance of Prop C, and the establishment of the climate sustainability department for the city. Those are opportunities that we can start building and start tackling the things that affect us regularly. Flooding, heat wave is now becoming more on people's radar. Air pollution, post-pandemic, people are more aware. So there's a lot of issues that people are being more awakened for, and I think this is a time for us to kind of take hold, and really, because this is about public health, this is about our well-being, our prosperity, from an economic point of view, but as well as longstanding of El Paso. We're going to celebrate 150th year of being a municipality for the city, but a longstanding history of heritage. Like we're at a forefront and a stage where we can prove, because we've dealt with it for many years, water scarcity, water conservation, and it's only going to get harder. So we need to be more refined so we can be more resilient. Just like America had mentioned, like the impacts of weather across the great state of Texas is different on each side, and we're going to see the extremity of heat. And I'm kind of curious to see how this winter goes. But going forward, yeah, we need to be more focused, more calculable, and resourceful. And with being the Sun City, exactly why we're here with Solar United Neighbors, to ensure that it's not just a nice marketing tool, but it's also a meaningful way of where we can sustain ourselves with energy generation.